All praise due to Allah and His blessing and peace and praise be upon Muhammad and his family and his followers and companions until the day of judgment. My dear brothers and sisters, here we go again talking with you in the second session for today, and the title of this session is How to Understand the Sunnah. In the beginning, one brother told me that try to make it more excitement because I don't want to fall asleep. And I'm sorry to tell you that I don't know how excitement I can be in this session, because this session specifically might need a little bit of concentrating more than the first one, because there is a lot of intellectual issues. It will come up in this session, and I will try to keep it beneficial for all levels, inshallah ta'ala. And I hope that you didn't double your meat before you came to the session. I don't mean the double famous Trinidad sandwich. I mean that you trouble the amount of food that you consume, so it can be heavy now to digest both the food and the knowledge. But shall we try our best? How to understand Sunnah? How to understand Sunnah? Very good question, because this is, I think it's a common question. So many people said, Sheikh, how can I understand the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? In order for me to answer these questions, there is 2 points need to be made very clear in the beginning. One is the meaning of Sunnah. What this word Sunnah means, that we use a lot. A Sunnah in Arabic language, linguistically speaking, Sunnah, it means the way, or a way that has been proceed. Somebody have gone through that path before and people follow him, that we call it Sunnah. So it's something referring to the way of somebody. It could be related to literally a path or a road, and could relate it to manners, something spiritually, a way or a character of somebody, talking about somebody's life or his way of life. So this can be called also Sunnah. This is technically, or this is the linguistic meaning of the word Sunnah in the Arabic language. So Sunnah always refer to the way of somebody. Okay, the way he carry himself, the way he behave, the way he act, good or bad. It could be good, it could be bad. But always Sunnah refer to the good way of doing things or dealing with things. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever start good Sunnah and start bad Sunnah. So bad Sunnah, it means a bad way of doing things, bad habit. And some other, like whoever start the bad habit of going to street and drinking and being almost naked in the street and thinks this is something good. This is a bad habit. Somebody start that Sunnah and people carry on generation after generation, century after centuries. This is bad habit. That's called bad Sunnah. Good Sunnah, for example, if somebody establishes a charity organization, looking after the poor people in the community, helping the people who are looking for a job, training them, providing skill for them to get the job, looking after the widows. This is somebody established organization like that. We call and people start carrying on after him this habit or this way. We call this good Sunnah. We're saying this is a good Sunnah that he start. Technically speaking, in Sharia, the definition of Sunnah in the Islamic Sharia or the Islamic law, Sunnah has different meanings. And this is very, very important point for all of you to understand. Arabic language has something very common in it, that one word can be used and to be referred to different meanings, and sometimes these meanings not related to each other. This is something you have to be very careful with when you deal with the terminologies in Quran and Sunnah in the science of, or the Islamic science. You have to understand what this word means in this particular science or in this particular statement, because it could carry different meanings. And as-Sunnah, one of these words who can carry more than 5 different meanings. More than 5 different meanings. For example, as-Sunnah used, one of the meanings, we say Al-Quran and as-Sunnah. So Al-Quran, it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have revealed to Muhammad and He delivered to us. And as-Sunnah, which is Al-Quran, the words from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the meanings all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as-Sunnah, it's something in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam been told, but in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam use his own words to express it. His own word to express it. So Al-Quran and as-Sunnah. Another time, we say as-Sunnah, and we refer to something which is Sunnah, which it means not obligatory to do. You're not must doing it. We said Sunnah, it means a volunteer act, recommended thing to do. You will not be punished by leaving it, or it's not a sin to leave it. So we say Sunnah, or some ulama would say Sunnah, and a counterpart with Fard or Wajib, obligation. Also, we say, third meaning, Sunnah and Bid'ah. Bid'ah, it means innovation, something been invented in the religion, has no base in the religion. And Sunnah, it means something in the religion, something from Quran, from the Prophet, whatever. So here, a Sunnah referred to something totally different than a Sunnah which is counterpart with Al-Quran, which is a counterpart with Al-Wajib, or what is obligated. The fourth meaning also, as-Sunnah as the opposite from Shia. We say Sunnah and Shia. That's a very common use as well. So Sunnah, it means somebody who doesn't believe in the Shia's beliefs. The Shia's beliefs, who believe that Ali is the one who worthy of the Imamah after the Prophet ﷺ. That's why they believe that the rest of the companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, they have done injustice by being Khalifas and they are kuffar and so on. So this Shia, this Shi'ism, or this methodology, or this group, or this sect, call themselves Shia. In another hand, you call Sunnah. Even among those Sunnah can somebody who practice some other innovations, but we still consider him Sunnah because he's not Shia. He's not Shia. Also sometimes Sunnah refer to the belief matters. Only belief matters, not practical issues, not fiqh issues. So when you say, for example, Sharh al-Sunnah, a book called Sharh al-Sunnah lil-Barbahari. This book referred to the Sharh al-Sunnah, it is the belief of Ahl al-Sunnah. So it's related to the science of theology. The science of theology. But other than that, Sunnah can be refer only to the theology, or to the Aqidah, to the belief, to the creed of the Muslim. Also, Sunnah could be used to refer to the whole religion. So Sunnah will be equal to the word religion. The word religion, beliefs and practicing, fiqh and aqidah, all together. Like Imam al-Baghawi has a famous book called Sharh al-Sunnah. It means the religion, every single thing in the religion in it. How many now we have? Who was writing? How many? 6, 7? 7.
We only 7.
Okay, you have 7. I have here only 6. Okay, 6. We have 6 so far. Good. So, so this is 6 different meanings for the Sunnah. 6 different meanings for the Sunnah. So which meaning we talking about here in our lecture? Who can guess? Are we talking the Sunnah, in a sense, the religion, which is include Al-Quran, Al-Ijma', consent, everything? So this out. We talk about the Sunnah as the opposite of the Shia? We talk about the Sunnah, the opposite of the Bid'ah? No. So 3 out. طيب, we talk about the Sunnah, which is recommended act, like the fuqaha use, the jurists use? No. So we still have 2, which is Sunnah as a counterpart with the Quran, or Sunnah, which it means the whole religion? No, we don't talk about that as well. So we left out with a Sunnah as the counterpart with Al-Quran. So we said Al-Quran was Sunnah. How we understand Al-Quran, and now how we understand the Sunnah. So what is the definition of Sunnah here? Al-Ulama said the definition is like this. Whatever the Prophet ﷺ said, or did, or approved, or whatever the Prophet ﷺ was described with. This is called Sunnah. I'll say that again. The Prophet ﷺ, whatever he did, he said, he approved, or he was described with. 4 things. So the Sunnah include Amin, Aman. What is his name? Yeah. What is his name? Fazir. طيب, Fazir. The Sunnah include his actions, his statements, and the Prophet's. I want to make it exciting. You asked me to do that, so I have to let you be part of the conversation. طيب. طيب. Fazir, I'm really including you in the speech. Yeah, I mean it. I'm not kidding. Okay. طيب. So it's the Sunnah is his actions, his words, statements, whatever he approved, and in Nabi Sallallahu whatever was described with, from his manners or his physical description. All this called Sunnah. All this called Sunnah, or the science of Hadith, if you want to use another word also to express that meaning. Who can give me an example of a statement the Prophet ﷺ said? Anybody? Yes. And Nabi ﷺ said, every innovation leads to the hellfire. كل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Every misguided lead to the hellfire. That's good example. Well, another example, the other part is what he did. Can anybody give me a hadith or a sunnah from his actions? No, another person. Yes. Go ahead. Huh? Yes, like the description of his praying. When Malik ibn al-Huwayrith said, the Prophet ﷺ, when he, for example, before he stand up to the first rak'ah, he set a very light sitting, yani for a few seconds before he goes straight to the second rak'ah and to the fourth rak'ah, which is a rest, a very short time. Nabi ﷺ, when he make takbir, for example, they said, Nabi ﷺ raise his hand towards his shoulders facing the Qibla and his fingers together. It's not like Allahu Akbar. Some people said Allahu Akbar. No, it's like this, Allahu Akbar. And some people, the Allah, and if it didn't touch, you have to beat it again. It has to touch. Also, this is not something I'm aware that ever been reported that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam touch his ear when he make takbir. But in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he make takbir, the sunnah, it's been reported, he will be towards his shoulders, beside his shoulder, or beside his ear, like this. This or like this. Anyway, so this is an action. Type something the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam approved. Quickly. Approved. So many. In Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for example, in Umrah, when you're doing the Umrah or Hajj, some of the Sahaba would not say, Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik. They would say something like, Labbaik Allahumma haqqan haqqa, Labbaik Allahumma ta'abbuda wa riqqa. لبيك ذا المعارج لبيك ذا الفواضل لبيك وسعديك والخير بيديك. They will say another way of talbiyah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam approve it. Talbiyah, it means labbaik Allahumma labbaik when you go to Hajj. So and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam approved these talbiyah, so became part of the sunnah. Or the Prophet ﷺ saw somebody made a supplication, then the Prophet approved it, so it became part of our sunnah. Such as when you raise from the ruku', you say ربنا ولك الحمد حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه ملء السماء والأرض وملء ما شئت من شيء بعد أهل الثناء والمجد. And Nabi didn't say that, but the Nabi ﷺ saw a man did that, and he said, what you did is great. The angels wrote it down. So it became sunnah because the Prophet ﷺ approved it. The Prophet ﷺ approved it. Description. I gave you a lot yesterday and today as well. Description. Yes. In Nabi ﷺ described that he had a long hair. That's a description, physical description. About his manners, he was humble, he was generous, whatever. He used to smile, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So all these called sunnah. All these called sunnah. So it is what he did, what he said, what he approved, and what he was described with from his manners or from his characteristics, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now we know what the meaning of the sunnah. طيب. Let's know what's the rule in regarding following the sunnah. Al-ulama said the sunnah must be followed. The sunnah must be accepted. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, whatever the messenger have given you, you must take. Whatever the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given you, you must take. Once Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said in a speech that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed the woman who plucked her eyebrows. Then a woman from Bani Asad, a tribe called Bani Asad, came to the Prophet ﷺ, came to Ibn Mas'ud, said, Ibn Mas'ud, you claiming that Allah cursed the woman who plucked her eyebrows? Where you got that from? I am an educated woman, okay? I'm an educated woman, and I read the whole entire Quran, and I can bring the Quran now. Show me where is it in the Quran. See how a woman, she knows how to talk. She expresses herself and very well, carry herself in a very well manners. She want to learn. Then Ibn Mas'ud said, if you read Al-Quran, you must come across it. Then she said, where is it? She said, didn't you hear what Allah said? وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the messenger have ordered you to do, you must follow. I heard the Prophet ﷺ myself saying that Allah cursed the woman who plucked her eyebrows and the woman who will do that to her. So since Allah ordered us to follow what the Prophet ﷺ said, that it means it is in the Quran. Also Ibn Abbas used the same verse when he was talking about something, some type of containers you're not allowed to use. You're not allowed to use because they used to use it to make alcohol in it. He recited this verse. That's why Al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah said, I have never ever heard about a single Muslim scholars would say following sunnah is not a must. Is not a must. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made it very clear in Quran. As Imam Ahmad rahimahullah said, I have read Al-Quran and I found in more than 33 times Allah ordered us to follow the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u ar-rasul wa ulil amri minkum. O who you believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger and the ulil amr, the people in charge, which is the ulama or the umara, the scholars and the leaders. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. If you have any dispute, refer your matter to Allah and to His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah is always there, but the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam after his death we refer to, how we refer to Allah? We go in the desert, say, Allah, we have this dispute, come and solve it. Do we do that? Answer me, do we do that? No, we refer to Allah by referring to the book of Allah, by the words of Allah, which is the Quran. How we refer to the Prophet, to go his grave and said, oh Muhammad, come and solve this problem for us? No, the same thing. We refer to his Sunnah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In kuntum tu'minuna billahi wal yawmil akhir. If you believe in Allah and the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said also in the other verse, in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 36, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا مُبِينًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it's not up to a believer, male or female, not up to you when Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam decide on something, order something, to have a choice. You have no choice to say, oh, I don't like it. It's not up to you anymore. Whatever Allah decide, whatever the Prophet ﷺ said, you have no choice. Then he said, whoever will disobey Allah and His Messenger, he is clearly in a clear misguidance. Allah said, وَمَن يُطِعِ الرَّسُولَ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهِ. Whoever obey the Prophet, he is obeying Allah. فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. By Allah, they will not be a believer. حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِّمَّا قَضَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Until they will submit themselves to whatever judgment you will judge between them, or whatever you say or judge between them, and they will not feel any hesitation in their hearts against your judgment, against the Prophet ﷺ's judgment. It's so many verses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, وَمَن يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in verses 115, whoever will go against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, against the teaching of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the order of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after he knows this is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will follow other the way of the believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let him go astray, and his destiny will be in the hellfire. His destiny will be in the hellfire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran once ordered us to obey the Prophet. Once ordered us to obey Allah and the Prophet together. And it's also, you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that obeying the Prophet is the sign of belief. And disobeying the Prophet is the sign of disbelief. And saying that whoever obey the Prophet go to the paradise, and whoever disobey the Prophet go to the hellfire. And order us to respond quickly and with full submission to the Prophet when he call us or ask us to do something. Very clear. In the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, Nabi ﷺ said it clearly that he must be followed. That Nabi ﷺ said, whoever will follow other my Sunnah is not among my ummah, is not among my nation. And Nabi ﷺ said, the best guidance is the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, and the best matter is the innovation, which is other than the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And every innovation goes and lead to hellfire. It's very simple, This is your target. This is Al-Jannah. This is the paradise. Okay? So you want to go to the paradise. And this is the way to the paradise, the Jannah. The Sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And Nabi ﷺ said, every innovation is leading to the hellfire. Every innovation leading to the hellfire. So if you use other way than the Sunnah, what happened? to you, use another path other than the Sunnah. Where to go? You miss your goal. You go this way, you go this way, you go this way. Okay? So, simple as that. There is only two places in the hereafter, paradise and hellfire. So if you miss this, you're in the other one. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, every misguided is leading to the hellfire. Because you miss your goal. Because the only way to this way is the way of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And Nabi ﷺ actually have said to us, like told us, said one day will come. And there is a man will be sitting in his couch and he will hear the hadith and he would say, is this in the Quran? Whatever in Quran we accept. Whatever is not in the Quran we will not accept. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, by the one my soul in his hand, whatever I say or obeying me like obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Nabi ﷺ does not say anything from his own. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said everything he said to you from the religion or related to the religion, it is something Allah have revealed it to him. وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. That's why you will see a great Imam like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, I will never leave anything from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Anything, any tiny thing, I will not leave it. Because if I'm afraid if I leave it, I will be among those who will be misguided. And I will go to hellfire. You will see that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to be very careful about following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. To sometimes to very literal way. Ibn Mas'ud once said, Nabi ﷺ stand up in the minbar after the salat and he was walking inside the masjid. Nabi ﷺ said, everybody sit down. Ibn Mas'ud said, Wallahi, one feet was outside the masjid and the other feet is inside the masjid. He said, when I heard him say, sit down, I sat just right there. I did not put the feet outside inside or the one inside outside. I just sat the same way. Full obedience. Full obedience to the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba were the best example. As Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, we never heard ever that Nabi ﷺ told the companion something and one of the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, is this wajib, yani obligation or just recommended? Or like, when somebody tell you, Sheikh, I have a question. I said, yes. I said, don't do it. He said, yeah, it is haram or it's makruh, I said, don't do it. And Nabi ﷺ ever see the books of hadith, you have it. Research it until the day of judgment. Okay? You will never say a single incident. One of them said, Ya Rasul, it's really, I don't have to do it? Or can I do it? There is nothing like that. Do it, don't do it, don't do it. That's it. All of it. Whenever the Prophet ordered them to do something, يقول ابن القيم تقع من قلوبهم موقع القبول والتسليم. It only reached their heart with an open heart. No, finish, no problem. With open heart. So they will, having an open heart, and they will not ever question the Prophet ﷺ about these things. Whatever he said, he will do it. He will obey the Prophet ﷺ's order. There is a consensus among the Muslims ummah that following the Prophet ﷺ is must. Also logic lead to that. Nabi ﷺ order us to follow the amirs, the leaders. So what about the amir of all amirs? Allah order us to follow the scholars when they give you the knowledge. What about the scholar who over all other scholars, which is Muhammad ﷺ? Doesn't it make more sense to follow him? If you have to follow your leader, the scholar, so it makes more sense to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Also, it makes sense, the logic also lead to this conclusion, because we know that whatever the Prophet ﷺ tell us from the religion, it is from Allah. It's not from his own. So, it is in one sense equal to the Quran. That's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the very beautiful hadith, make it very clear, he said, إِنَّمَا أُتِيتُ الْقُرْآنَ وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ. I have been giving Al-Quran and what is similar to it, which is his sunnah. So if the Quran and sunnah come from the same resource, so they should have the same authority. Makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, when you differentiate between things that are similar to each other, you're not making any sense. You're not making any sense. So logically to this conclusion, also from another perspective, logically we can prove it, that if we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He said, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Surah Al-Hijr verse 9. I want you to remember this verse very well. This verse, Allah said, we have sent down the dhikr. We have sent down the dhikr. And we are going to protect it. We are going to protect it. Al-dhikr referred here in this surah to Al-Quran and As-Sunnah together. So many people think this surah only related, or this verse only related, or ayah to the Quran. That's absolutely not right. As Imam Ibn Hazm rahimahullah said beautiful words. He said, if this verse related only to Al-Quran, that Allah protecting Al-Quran is not going to protect the Sunnah from being lost or being changed, it wouldn't make any sense to protect Al-Quran only. But if Allah protect for us, aqimus salat, perform the salat, and He will not protect and save for us how to pray, it doesn't make any sense to save this verse, pray, perform prayer. Okay, how? How to make hajj? Okay, Allah ordered us to make hajj, to make zakat. How we do that? So the explanation of this word must to be saved in order for the Quran to be saved. Because Allah doesn't want to save words with no meanings. Allah wants to save the words and the meanings of the words. So that's why Al-Quran and Sunnah included in this verse. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have revealed the Sunnah to Muhammad. Listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah An-Nisa verse 113. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمُ. Allah have sent down to you the book and the hikmah. Hikmah. And He taught you what you didn't know before. And listen to the verse in surah before that, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 231. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Remember what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have bestowed upon you, that He sent down to you the book and the hikmah. The book and the hikmah. And no doubt that the hikmah here in these verses is the sunnah, which is Allah have sent it to people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this surah An-Nahl, write it down, you can read it later, verse 44, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Listen carefully. We have sent down to you a dhikr. So a dhikr will explain to people what Allah have revealed to them. I would say that again. We have sent down to you a dhikr. So this dhikr will explain what Allah have sent down to them. What Allah have sent down to us? Al-Quran. But He sent down to us in the same time a dhikr. So a dhikr will explain the Quran. Al-Quran said perform the salat. A dhikr tell you how and when and what is the conditions and what's the pillars of the salat, of the prayer. You see how this Quran all explain itself when you put it together. So it makes more sense in this case that Al-Quran as Sunnah must be followed because it comes from the same source. It comes from the same source. Is that clear? You all agree with me in this? So go further. If this is the case, I would like to ask you a question. And raise your hand. When you think a Sunnah was written? A Sunnah, the process, statement and actions and descriptions and proof. When it was documented, when you think it was documented? Raise your hand if you know the answer. I'll give you 3 options. You can choose other option if you want. It's totally up to you, yani. It's a free country, isn't it? Okay. It's a carnival time as well, so everybody free to do whatever he wants. Go ahead. 100 Hijri, 150 Hijri, 83 Hijri, 0 Hijri. Means in the Prophet's time.
The time when Prophet received prophet.
Huh?
The time when Prophet received prophet from that time.
0? That's what it referred? No. It referred to 0 referred to the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was living in Medina or raise your hand. Raise your hand, man. Okay? So let's make it more clear. Okay. The 0 one. So the Sunnah was documented in the Prophet ﷺ time. Absolutely correct. But not the whole entire Sunnah. But the documenting the Sunnah been written during the Prophet ﷺ's life. So many people, they don't know that. They don't know that the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ's hadith and the Prophet ﷺ's statement and the Prophet ﷺ's whatever teaching he used to teach was documented during the Prophet ﷺ time. Even Nabi ﷺ had special writers who only allowed to write his Sunnah, such as Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. He said, Ya Rasulullah, some of the companions telling me I should not write what you say. He said, wait, why? Everything comes out of my mouth is the truth. Write what I'm saying. Write what I am saying. But Nabi ﷺ told the people who used to write Al-Quran, the Quran, they are not allowed to write the Sunnah. So he has a special writer for the Quran, special writer for the Sunnah. Or whoever will write some verses, he is forbidden to write with the verses of the Quran anything else other than the Quran. You know, one of the biggest problems when you study the history of any religion, especially study the history of the Bible, Christianities and things like that, you will see the big problem happen when they mix the word of Jesus and the word of the narrators. And the word of somebody adding his own words, or the word of God and the word of Jesus himself. So it became mixed. And generation after generation, you can split, you can separate them. You see, one of the edition I saw for the Bible written, they said, whatever in red is only what Jesus said. And whatever in black is what the scholars or his companions said. And it was very surprised to me when I go over the whole book, and then there's like some statistic that only 35% of the Bible is actually what referring to the statement of Jesus or something close to that. But the rest of it's more like the narrator saying and describing what's happening. So this is something very interesting to know that Nabi ﷺ followed this method to save Al-Quran from being mixed as a text with anything else. So As-Sunnah was documented in the early time of the Prophet ﷺ, but the official order for documenting and collecting the Sunnah in one book, actually it goes back to the prince of Egypt in that time, his name Abdul Aziz ibn Marwan, who was living in the year 85 Hijri. Okay, He died in 85 Hijri. He ordered somebody, his name Kuthayr ibn Murrah, to collect the ahadith of the Sahaba that he met. Kuthayr, he met 70 companions who witnessed the battle of Badr. He met 70 Badri. This Tabi'i met 70 from the Badriyin, from the early Muslims, companions, and he collected the ahadith of them and the ahadith of Abu Hurairah, and he collected over 5,000 hadith. 5,000 hadith. And this documentary is existed until today. And you will see some letters or some books written by the companions themselves. By the companion themselves. It has been narrated, and until today we have it. We have it. Just give you an example. Anas ibn Malik rahimahullah ta'ala wa radiyallahu an, he used to have books. He wrote all the ahadith that he memorized in a book. And he used to read from it when he teach the second generation, the Tabi'een. Also Ibn Mas'ud had a book. And this book he wrote, and the hadith that he collected from the Prophet ﷺ and heard from the Prophet ﷺ. That's why his son Abdul Rahman, who's a tabi'i, when you read in the biography, before he goes outside to narrate the hadith, he will read in the book of his father. And Ali radiallahu anhu arda also has a documentary, or has a book that he document in it all some of the ahadith, and the whole entire book been narrated and reported in Musnad Imam Ahmad. Ibn Umar has the same thing. Samurah ibn Jundub has another book, and the whole entire book been or exists in the book it's called Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, which is published today. If you want to use your cell phone, you can go outside, use the phone. Type. Also Sa'd ibn Ubadah, another companions, the whole entire book that he wrote or collect from the Sunnah had been reported or been narrated through or exist in the book of by Shafi'i and Al-Kamil. Also Ibn A'id have collected the ahadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and Jabir has another book. It also exists in Musannaf Abdul Razzaq. So when you look at this, you will understand clearly that the Sunnah documented in the very early age, in the very early time, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That give you kind of trust, because we have a big problem with people raising doubts about the authenticity of Sunnah. Authenticity of Sunnah, that it has root or a connected root. Also, this will refute some big misconception. People think Al-Bukhari is the first one who collected the Sunnah. That's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. The Sunnah collects 100 years or been officially documented before that. Also Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri had a great role in collecting the Sunnah, and who ordered him to do that? The Prince of Medina in that time. His name is Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who became Khalifa later on. He ordered Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri to collect the Sunnah in a formal way. Okay, Sheikh, that means it was not documented. No, it's documented but was not collected. The same thing, the Quran was written, but when it was officially gathered in one mushaf, in the time of Abu Bakr, then in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu. The same thing with the Sunnah. The same thing with the Sunnah. But the Sunnah came later, because now they concentrate about the Quran, and they were working the Sunnah in the same time. But after in the time of the Bani Umayyah, it had been completely done and been documented, and there is a lot of work been done to that. How can we trust the Sunnah first, before we understand it? How can we trust it? One, you trust it because I told you Allah promised that He will save this book and this deen. Allah promised to save the deen, and the deen cannot be understood without the Sunnah. So the Sunnah also been saved. Two, if you understand the methodology of the scholars of Hadith, you will understand why you should trust the Sunnah. Because when you deal with the Sunnah with trust, you understand how to deal with it. So many people, brother and sister, who had a problem with so many ahadith, because they don't have trust. If you go back to this foundation, you will find the foundation shaking. They don't have a trust that the Sunnah is an authentic source of information. Authentic source of information. I met in Chicago once a professor. He's a white American brother who was not Muslim when he started studying the history of Sunnah and the Hadith. He said, I always had this doubt because I raised in a Western universities about the authenticity of how accurate and can be trusted the verbal way of transferring information. And I tell you something, you carry it to another. How much can we trust that? You know, we always have a doubt about that. And I couldn't imagine somebody can memorize all these numbers of ahadith in the same words. So what if it's changed? All this. He said, until one day I come across the internet sheikh in Saudi Arabia. His name Abdullah Saad. He's a good, he's a well-known sheikh. I know him personally. Anyway, this man is amazing. This is really amazing. He said, when I come across one of his lecture, I became Muslim. He has a PhD in Hadith, in science of Hadith. He became Muslim after he heard this share. He said, I understand why, but I'll tell you why. Abdullah Sa'ad basically memorized Al-Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Al-Tirmidhi, Al-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah with the chin of the narrators. Okay? And I remember once we were sitting in a dinner, then I said, Abdullah, I will test you a little bit. And I have the book. He said, okay, I have here a Tirmidhi, and I want you to narrate to me, to tell me all the ahadith that Al-Hasan al-Basri narrated through Jabir ibn Samurah, for instance. Then he said, okay, in the Tirmidhi, in the first chapter, book this, there's one hadith. The hadith, he gave the whole chain of narrator, then the text of the hadith. Then you go to the second chapter, there's nothing there. Third and fourth, and so on. And we have the book. Then he goes to Abu Dawood, then At-Tirmidhi, then Nasa'i, then Bukhari, then Muslim. 6 books, you talk about thousands of narrations, thousands of chain of narration, like this, like computer. You know, it says research, enter, it's the same thing, research, enter. Then he come up with that. He said when he heard him talking, he never said any hadith without mentioning the chain of narrator. This professor, Anthony, he told me, Sheikh Walid, when he heard that, when he heard that somebody in the 21st century can do that with barely, he said, I go and I check the hadith myself, with barely and not a single mistake. Not a single mistake, he said, I found. I understand if this can be exist in the time of cable TVs and Super Nintendos and all these things in this centuries, it's very possible to be exist in 20th century ago. That makes a lot of, or 1400 years ago. That's very possible that it can be transferred in a very authentic way. And I told him, you don't need Abdullah Sa'ad to believe that. I said, we have very easy, very simple method. I can go over that because that can be a whole course for a whole week, talk about the authenticity of Sunnah. But I just want you to understand something. The big questions that people raise, especially whoever in universities and meet intellectual people, debate happen about this issue, I want you to understand something. The big question they always raise, how can you tell that this narrator did not make a mistake? How can you tell that Abu Hurairah did not forget or he'd mix up between the words? This is the biggest mistake, biggest argument they always have. I tell them, it's very simple. The science of hadith is not blind faith, taking for granted every word, every great person saying. No. Let's say this narrator said something. Walid, let's say. I said one text. Then this text, it's almost impossible to find one text only been narrated through one person. It's almost impossible. Okay? So that text must be narrated through other people as well. So if you found that Walid have said something different than these 3 people said, We said that's minus 1. Good man, okay, I can take him for granted. No, they check. And let's say also they have another very critical method. Let's say there is a famous sheikh, somebody like Sufyan al-Thawri. Sufyan al-Thawri, for example, has 1,000 students, 1,000 narrator. It's impossible that one person will narrate something about Sufyan, and this is very, especially in Aqidah or in Salat, very important hadith or very important issue. Only one person and no other students narrated. In this case, they call it يروي المناكير عن المشاهير. He narrates weird things about famous people. That's not acceptable. Like if somebody said, Wallahi, I saw Sheikh bin Baz doing this and this. No, how can you say that? There is hundreds of students of Sheikh bin Baz. He cannot just came of nowhere saying he used to do that. Must be narrated by other people as well. So they have this method and very picky and very careful about the authenticity of the narrations. So no doubt that the ulama has a methodology and conditions for the hadith to be acceptable and not to be acceptable and to be rejected. If now we understand what the meaning of sunnah, we understand why it is obligated to follow the sunnah, and now we coming to here to the point we understand it's authentic. Okay, I have this feeling. Now the next step, how can I understand the sunnah? Time out. Obligated. Exactly the same thing with the words of the Prophet ﷺ. Not every order, it means it's obligated. Some of them, as the fuqaha divide them to levels. Some of them are okay. Some of them are, so I don't understand why you're having it. And make sure that you clean this up after we finish the conference. What I'm saying is, if this is the case, how can we understand this? Al-ulama divide the sunnah to levels. The highest level, they call it wajib. Then after that one level. Second level, we call it recommended, mandub. Third level, we call it mubah, which is permissible. So you have wajib, then you have mandub, recommended, obligatory first, then recommended, then permissible. Then you have what we call it haram, here on this side, okay? And you have not recommended, and you have mubah again. And you have on this side what is forbidden, sin to do, what is not recommended, and what is permissible again. 5 categories. What I want you to understand here clearly, that each one of these categories itself has different levels. Make sure that you understand this. Each one of these categories has so many different levels. Like for example, if I walk into this door and said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, it is obligatory upon you to respond or not? Huh? Yes. So this is wajib. But being good to your parents is also? Okay, I hope I didn't mess it up. So saying or being good to your parents is also obligatory. Would you consider them in the same level? Hey, be with me. Same level? Impossible. Being good to your parents is equal to say wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah? No doubt they're not the same level. If I sneeze, said alhamdulillah, you said yarhamukallah. I said, saying yarhamukallah, yaghfirullah lana wa lakum wa hidina sahbah lakum Allah. This is wajib to reply to you. Is that equal to? Is that equal to supporting the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal and giving da'wah to people? No, they are both wajib, but it cannot be the same. It cannot be the same at all. This is a different level. Also forbiddens is a'udhu billah, dealing with interest, with riba, with your own father or your own brother will be equal to somebody, for example, cheating and selling, this is a sin and this is sin. All their sin, but they are levels. That's why you have major, you have minor, you have the great major sins, and so on. So in Sunnah al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam also you have to understand this different in levels. And this is something we'll go back to the ulama, to the scholar to explain to you. So first, that's something you have to understand before we go into the issue of understanding the Sunnah. First step, when you have any narrations, any hadith, first step, make sure that this hadith is acceptable hadith, not weak, not fabricated. So first step, the authenticity of the hadith. First step to understand the Sunnah, the authenticity of the hadith. Right. Well, I might ask, how can I know it's authentic? I'll give you an easy answer. One, whatever you see in al-Bukhari and Muslim is authentic. By the ijma', almost the consensus of the ulama, especially in the later time. Three, you have to refer to a great alim, a great scholar who you trust to tell you if it's authentic or not. If it's authentic or not. Two, when we hear any hadith or any one of the Prophet ﷺ sunnah, we have to differentiate between what we call it act of the Prophet ﷺ, which is related to the religion, and actions which is related to his human nature as a human being. Because the Nabi ﷺ will do certain things because he's a human, as a human, but he will do another thing as a prophet, as a role model for the ummah. He will do it as a part of the religion, to explain the Quran, and he will do other things as a part of his culture. For example, in Nabi ﷺ wear turban, and not because Allah ordered him to wear turban, he was wearing turban before he became a prophet. You see? Also, that's why it's very important when you study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you don't take rules from the era before him being a prophet. Like some Sufis sects, they said it is sunnah to go to the caves and to stay away from the way the people, and to be alone and isolated in the desert, and this is in the Prophet ﷺ sunnah, this is the way he was. Hello, this is before he became a prophet. What are you talking about? And Nabi ﷺ never did that after he was a messenger. He never ordered his companions to do that. So make sure that you differentiate between what he did as a human or from his own, and what he did as a prophet, as an order from Allah to explain that. How can we understand this? We understand it in a different ways. One of the ways that we see, if this has nothing to do with the religion, has nothing to do with the religion. Like for example, what kind of food he liked to eat, what kind of colors he liked. Like he liked the colors green, doesn't mean sunnah that you have to like green. Or names, for example, he liked or he called one of his daughters or son a name. It doesn't mean it's sunnah that you have to do that. And Nabi ﷺ, for example, used to wear certain type of clothes, certain type of shoes. It doesn't mean you have to do that. And Nabi used to dye his beard with henna. It doesn't mean sunnah for you to dye your beard with henna. Doesn't mean that. You know, Nabi ﷺ used to have a long hair. It doesn't mean you grow your hair. The hair, there's a different, it's also, or braid his hair to 4. It means you braid your hair. No, this is part of his culture. And Nabi ﷺ used to eat with his hand. Somebody said, I don't eat with spoons. Why? Sunnah ya akhi. Excuse me, there's no sunnah here. And Nabi ﷺ didn't do that for you to follow. Oh, I don't sit on the table. Why? Sunnah. I don't sit in chairs, it's sunnah. Actually, you're mistaken, Nabi ﷺ sat on chairs. But anyway, Nabi ﷺ did not do that as an act of worship. He did that as a part of his culture, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So unless you bring proof that this is part of the religion, or something Nabi recommended as a part of the religion, otherwise stay as it is. For instance, we say when you buried your dead ones, you shower them or use a white garment. The proof for that is not just because they used to do that. No, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, use white garment to use it in the funeral process for your dead one. So Nabi ordered us to use the white one. But for example, some people think the sunnah is to wear white clothes when you go to ihram. There is no proof for that. There is no proof for that. A woman wear white for that. Clothes to go to ihram. There's no proof for that. It is some part of the culture. As some people said, okay, we'll take a ring. I told you, Nabi did not take a ring because it's a part of the religion. You want to take ring, you don't want to wear a ring, it's up to you. But Nabi said, wear the ring because he want to send messages to the kings of his time. Also, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to put kuhl, for example, in his eyes. Kuhl. It doesn't mean that you do, but you might say no. Al-kuhl, Nabi sallallahu actually recommend the kuhl. He said, "Iktahidu." Put kuhl because it helps the person's sight, and also to help the hair to grow with the ithmid. That's what the Prophet sallallahu said. Also, sometimes one important thing here. Some of the Prophet ﷺ actions is not meant for the ummah to follow it or to copy him in it. So it can be only specific to the Prophet ﷺ, and you have to bring proof for that. For instance, Nabi ﷺ married more than 4 wives. Nobody can say, okay, I'm going to follow the sunnah now. Marry more than 4. No, you can't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala limited mathna wa thalatha wa ruba', that's it. Nabi ﷺ married more because this is a special case. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to fast for days continuously. Will not break his fast. 1, 2, 3 days. We are not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that. This is something special for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the things, sometimes it became a debatable issue. Like Nabi used to pray 2 rak'ahs after Asr every day. Some ulama said, like among the Hanafi scholars, Imam al-Tahawi seemed to be the most famous opinion among the scholars, that it's something special for the Prophet ﷺ. We don't copy him on that. But some other scholars said no. So some area will have a debate issue about it, but there is other area which is clear cut. This is only the Prophet ﷺ allowed to do so. One more thing also, very important, and Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah emphasized in it a lot in a great book it's called I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in. He said sometimes the Prophet ﷺ will do things based on his position. So you might take this in consideration. Give you an example. Nabi ﷺ might order something as a leader for the Muslim. So it's not going to be a sunnah for every single person to do it, unless you have the same position to be in a leadership position. Yani, give you an example. Nabi ﷺ said, kill so and so person to one of the companions, because he is the chief in command. He declared war. He declared peace. Because he is the leader of the community. He is the judge of the community. He is the president, the one who in charge. So it's not, for example, up to somebody today to say, you know what, I declare war against this and this country. Who you are to declare war? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam declare war. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam order some people to assassinate Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf. So you know what, I'm order one of my followers to go assassinate so and so person. I'm following the sunnah, and this is commonly used. This is wrong, because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that as a ruler, not as an individual in the community. Big difference between the two positions. So when you study the sunnah also, you might need to know why he did that sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he might change the munkar, the evil thing, with his hand. He stop it, he break it. But it doesn't mean sunnah for everybody to do that. He did it because he's in charge, he's in command, he has the authority to do it. But you see, none of the Sahaba did it, because they don't have the authority. But the leaders after the Prophet take the same responsibility, and so on. This is very important issue when you study the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to understand the difference of position and why the Prophet ﷺ did such actions as well. Also, one thing it's a very important when we study the Prophet ﷺ's Sunnah, that when we see a hadith contradict each other's, we have to deal with it with the methods that the ulama of usul al-fiqh, the scholars of usul al-fiqh, have put for us. One, we might find one hadith abrogate the other, came later and abrogated the other one. So here the problem solved. Two, it might be one authentic and one weak. One authentic and one weak. So here we solve the problem. Three, we know that Nabi Sallallahu will never contradict himself, because if he contradict himself, it means Allah contradict himself, because all from Allah. So this is not an option. It's so many times because of our lack of research. So when you research a little bit, we come to a rule which is the vast majority of ulama use, which is called al-jam'. Al-jam'. Some Hanafi scholars have a different way of, they call it at-tarh. We don't agree with that, with what some of the Hanafi scholars agree, as the vast majority of the ulama, even among the Hanafi themselves, so many disagree with this method. At-tarh, it means, they said, ta'arada tasaqata. They contradict each other, we leave both. They save the headache, just move on. And that's not acceptable by the vast majority of the fuqah and the usuliyin. No, they said we have to understand the meaning. I give you an example and you will solve the contradiction. Because they are it appear like contradict each other, but in reality they are not. For example, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't write anything I say except Al-Quran. He said that clearly. Don't write anything except Al-Quran. Anybody write anything except Al-Quran, he should erase it. But in other ahadith, clearly he said, write what I say. He said, write for this person's, this ahadith. Uktubu li Abi Shat. And this is right before his death. So you cannot say this is contradict, this is abrogate this. He say, order them to write to Abi Shat a letter included some of his ahadith or his statements, and write before his death. So these contradict each other. How can we solve the contradictions? Very easy. Al-ulama said that Nabi Sallallahu said that in the beginning of the time, in order for the Sahaba to memorize Al-Quran and not to be confused. Other opinions said no. Nabi Sallallahu said that to the people who write Al-Quran only, and they bring narration to support that. So the writer of the Quran, they are not allowed to write anything but Al-Quran. So this way we understand the hadith. We can understand both now what this means. Other ulama said no, it means don't write Al-Quran and other than Al-Quran in the same place or the same paper. Did you use paper that time? They use like bones and the dry skin of animals, they write on it and things like that. So don't write it together so it will not be mixed. So this way we understand both of the hadith, the contradiction solved. The contradiction solved. For example, I just give you an example of drinking water. Sometimes the Nabi he said don't drink water while standing, but he did. He did because of a reason. Because he want to tell people that drinking is because they have to break their fast in the day of Arafah, or because he doesn't want people to take it as a habit to sit next to Zamzam, so they will create a traffic jam. In this case, or for other reasons. Sometimes this contradictions comes also for one more reason. Sometimes the Nabi Sallallahu would say, don't do that, or would say, do this. But the Nabi Sallallahu will not do it, or he will do what he said, don't do it. And he would tell you, don't do it, but he will do it. Or he would say, do it, but he will not do it. Why? Because he want to tell you that doesn't mean it's obligatory on you to do. It's recommended for you to do. So let's say he said, do it, but he will leave it sometimes. He will leave it only to tell you it's not must. Like Taraweeh, praying Taraweeh in Ramadan. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ordered us to do it, but he didn't do it. Except few days, then he left it. Why? To tell us it's not must. It's just sunnah to do it, or recommended act to do it. See? Or the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't do that, but he might do it. Just to tell us it's not forbidden. Like the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told men they're not allowed to urinate while they are standing. But the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it to tell us it's only not recommended to do it. But it's not forbidden, it's not haram. So because in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam position different than us. In Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam position is to show us the Sharia. In all aspects. In all aspects. Also very important tips when you try to understand the Sunnah, that you have to understand the Hadith in the light of the other Ahadith. You cannot take one narration and you leave the rest. You have to collect all of them together and look to the whole picture. The people of innovations and people who follow desires, they only pick and choose. They choose one and they leave the rest. This is not right. Also very important to understand the culture of the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the definition of the words, of the terminologies. Yani for example, Nabi ﷺ said, taking a shower on Friday is wajib upon every Muslim. Some people said, wajib, it means obligatory. They take wajib the same meaning of what the fuqaha have invented later on, centuries after that, saying wajib, which is you will be sinful if you leave it and you will be rewarded if you do it. No, Nabi ﷺ was not referring to the definition which appeared 100 years after his death. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot do that. You cannot deal with the Sunnah like this way. You have to understand what wajib meant in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. When the Nabi ﷺ said he made qasr after 13 miles in Sahih Muslim. 13 miles, then he made qasr. He didn't go and said, okay, miles, so it's an American way of like measuring the distance. Like miles, we do in America, miles. And no, it's not. You cannot use the terminology of these days to apply the terminology, because these have different meanings through centuries. So you have to be aware of the terminology of the Prophet ﷺ time and what it means, what he referred to, in order for you to understand the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. There are so many details anyway related to this, but I'm just trying to make something closer to your, to be able to understand it. In the end, I would like to say one important rule, that every major scholars who had written an advice to the Muslims or a book related to this subject, he mentioned this point. Al-Bukhari did it, Ibn Ma'in did it, Shafi'i did it, so many from the earlier scholars, Tabi'in and so on. They all agree in one thing, which is, if you cannot understand the hadith, only accuse yourself and don't accuse the Prophet ﷺ. Only blame your mind, don't blame the Prophet ﷺ. Some people have the opposite. If you don't understand it, oh, this hadith is nothing. Maybe you the one who doesn't know. Hold a second, wait a second. Like I met one brother, one guy in Canada once. He said, oh, hadith, I can't trust it anymore. Bukhari, Muslim, I don't trust it. I said, why? He said, can you believe it? There is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari saying that there is people or a nation of people, they come from pigs or donkeys. Human being is a human being. I studies human race, and he said there is no human being came from an animal. I said, hold a second, where do you get that hadith from? He said, Sahih Bukhari. I said, where is it Sahih Bukhari? He said, no, I know it. I said, it's not. You're lying. I said, I know Sahih Bukhari, let's go. And we go to Sahih Bukhari. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there is some ummah, one nation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them that He turned them to have the shape of pigs. Then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the same hadith, and said such ummah will never bear children. They will never ever be able to what? To produce another generation. They die. Actually in one generation 3 days, then they die. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned them to this. So where you got that from? That these pigs comes from human beings. This is your bad understanding. Or somebody said, how come there is no how come. You have to, if this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, say sami'na wa ata'na, we heard and we obey. Once one of the ulama, his name Mu'awib ibn Abi al-Dharir, was narrating a hadith that the Nabi ﷺ said Adam and Musa debated each other. Then his uncle said, where does Adam and Musa have met? Adam and Musa, there is a big difference between them. Oh, they're never going to meet each other. Then Harun al-Rashid took the sword and he told him, he telling you the Prophet said and you're telling him how come? Wallahi, if you don't repent now, I'm going to execute you. Like warning him. And he said, I stopped. The people show respect. That's why Ibn Mas'ud and Ali radiallahu anhu said, if you hear hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, only think good about it. Don't think the worst of it. Only think good. Try to understand in a good way. Some people have this, the first reaction toward the hadith is the rejection, not the acceptance. No. Your first reaction is, if it is authentic, I believe in it. Because we have a limited mind. One shaykh, sorry to say that as a shaykh, when he said that, when he heard about the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, if a fly fall in your cup and you have a drink in that cup, don't drink it unless you dip it. Then after that you take it out. Then if you want to drink it, you can drink it. But don't drink it without doing that. He said, ugh. This so-called sheikh said, this is disgusting. Islam is a religion, order people to be clean and nice and good. Fly is a disgusting. Anyway, he keeps saying that until a German researcher came with a research saying that the fly has under one of the wings a bacteria, and on the other side the antibacteria for this, the cure for this one. So Nabi ﷺ said, if it fall, because usually it fall on one side, he said dip it, because when you dip it, the pressure will release the antibacteria or the cure, so you will not get hurt. When this sheikh said, oh, this is miracle, I said, hey, you believe in the German researcher, you don't believe in Rasulullah. You believe in the German doctor, you don't believe in Rasulullah. What the German doctor made you believe, but not what the Prophet ﷺ said. Big difference. So we have a limited mind. Like somebody said, Sheikh, we know now this is no harm by having this or doing that. You don't know, ya akhi. 20 years ago, people discovered things in these modern days and said, oh wallahi, that's right. Maybe 100 years from now things will change. You didn't know. The religion will not change. Religion is a fact. And people and history and science, not all the science, but theories is changeable, is something changeable. But religion is always something will remain. And with this I would like to conclude my speech by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to always follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ all the time, and to understand it and memorize it. And I would like to mention in the end one of the great books. I wish that every brothers and sister here today, or will listen to this speech wherever they are, they should read in it in a very frequent time. The book of Riyadh al-Salihin. It's a great book. And I wish that you really read it and complete reading it. And if you can add to it one of the explanation for Riyadh al-Salihin, it will be great. But this book, a great book, it teaches a lot of things that Muslims, I think, they need to know in their life. And also books like Sahih al-Bukhari or the summary of Sahih al-Bukhari. It will be a good book for the person to read. And also the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's something else. I think a Muslim should read it, like in the Lecutre seal by Mubarak Furi. It's a great book to read, and it's related to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ because it's about his life. These books, I really highly recommended you to read it frequently and to look at it all the time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.
Jazakallah to the Sheikh for that enlightening presentation. And inshallah, from this, what we want is that whatever he said is to affect our mind first and to have us thinking and open our minds. And from our minds, it should affect our heart. And from our heart, it should affect our actions and our hands and our eyes and our feet into positive things, inshallah. We just open up the floor for a few questions because time is behind us, about 3. So the first 3 questions come up and answer, inshallah. 3 is the Sunnah. Is that so, Sheikh? 3 is the Sunnah or? Is 3 the Sunnah?
5.
5.
Take from the sister, from the brothers.
Still collect any questions from people every time.
First question: what do you say to people who, when you advise them about bid'ah, they say that every action in life is an act of worship? So driving cars is bid'ah and sleeping on mattresses is bid'ah, etc. When you tell them bid'ah is related to matters of the deen.
Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Bid'ah, exactly as you said, is something related to the religion. And driving car is not an act of worship. Who said that? If it's an act of worship, it means if I drive Mercedes, I will be rewarded more than the one driving Mazda. And it doesn't make any sense. You know, if I'm driving 2005, I will be higher than 2001. Okay, worship act is different levels. How does that work? I'm gonna be a truck driver from now on. You know, if it's, I don't know how they will define the big one, the small one. You know, who said that driving is an act of worship? Who said that when you eat, you are worshipping Allah? Who said that? Oh, mashallah, I worship a lot, that means, you know, what that means. Who said that? They will tell you, because you eat, because you want to be healthy, so you can pray in the night. You drive the car so you can go to the mosque. So the act of worship is not the driving, it's the intention. Big difference. It's a big difference between this and that. So no doubt that what they're saying, every act in the world is an act of worship. No. It's when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, when intercourse happened between the husband and wife, it's ajr. He didn't say it's an act of worship. He said it's a form of sadaqah. The ajr comes out of it. Because the intention, because he has a pure intention. So in this case, we will know the bid'ah is also related to the issue in religion, because this religion is not it's an open door for everybody to make up his own way. We are followers now.
The Prophet clothes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reflected both The rich and poor. Today our people's clothes reflect the non-Muslims, although they may be loose. I don't understand that one. The Prophet's clothes reflected both the rich and poor. Today our people's clothes reflect the non-Muslims, although they may be loose.
Yes, I understand what you're trying to say. The Prophet ﷺ's clothes, he were expensive and cheap ones. Today people, they don't really care about expensive or cheap. He said people care about fashion or just imitating the Western. This is the rules. If there is a clothes, only non-Muslims wearing it, nobody else wearing it, it became not allowed to wear it. Like for example, you know this small little hat the Jewish wear it? No, Muslims say, oh, it's cool, I want to wear it, We said, no, it's not allowed. These Catholic priests, they wear these things, put it in their con of the shirt. Muslims said, oh, it looks cool, I want to do it. We said, no, it's not allowed. Because only those people wearing the cross, only Christians wear cross. So you're not allowed to wear it. Or the star of the Jewish, things like that. But anything became a common between people, Muslim and non-Muslim, you're allowed to wear it. You're allowed to wear it. Like pants, shirts, skirts, t-shirts, whatever. But if you say anything the Western wear we're not allowed to wear, that means I cannot wear underwear, I cannot wear t-shirt, I cannot wear because socks. This is kuffar things, It's nonsense, Okay, he best talking about the pants. Okay, what about under the pants? Okay, it's haram also. You know what I'm saying? About your shirt. What about the undershirt? You see what I'm saying? It's a very unacceptable way of argument. You tell me it's not allowed to wear the pants. Okay, you know what? But okay, we can go the whole 9 yards, So we have to be also being just when we talk. No doubt, remember the condition I said before, the certain condition in the clothes, it has to be met. Beside that, no.
There are hadith concerning the etiquettes of Rasulullah, for example, the way he ate, slept and used the washroom, etc. Didn't he do these acts before and after prophethood? If so, are these not to be followed since they are Sunnah as well as his customs?
No, Nabi Sallallahu did not used to do the same way of supplication. These things he learned it after he became a prophet. The supplication that he used to do, or the way he used to sleep. And that's how he ordered us to follow him in these things. That's why it became Sunnah. But for example, if Nabi Sallallahu, let's say it's been narrated that he once been heard snoring. It's not Sunnah to snore. It's part of his human being culture. It's the way maybe he heard once doing that. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. And it's been reported in Nabi Kana nama wa yanfukh. It was in Nabi Sallallahu yanfukh, it means like this. It's not really a snoring. That's one. The other thing is about the way he supplication and that, sleeping and dressing.
Yes, slept and using washroom.
The wudu is after being a prophet. That's what Allah taught him, and this is revealed in the Quran. Now, how to perform wudu.
Kohl, as used by the Prophet ﷺ, someone use it as makeup or form of beautification. Can women use it as beautification in public? That is where people other than non-mahram you see them.
Well, I don't know what kohl mean, but
using the kohl, the eye.
Kuhul. Okay, kuhul. Kohl is no problem. Kuhul, women and men as well, both use it. Kuhul that women use has no color in the Prophet's time. But the kuhul of men has color. Anyway, Aisha used to put something in her lips, which is make it red. They used to Aisha dye the front of her hair with something yellow. which is, turned to a little bit yellow. This has been reported about the woman of the Prophet ﷺ and in the time of the Sahaba. It's common among the people to do such things like that. But she's not allowed to do this in public, because the whole point is not to attract attention to her while she is walking. So anything she will put and would attract the people's attention to her, else she's not allowed to do or to wear. Basically, this is the rule. But she can put makeup as much as she wants if she's going to cover her face. Now,
I heard the Sheikh reciting Quran for the session. Will he recite some more Quran for us?
inshallah, when you pray behind me, inshallah.
Inshallah, so if you all want to stay until Maghrib to hear the Sheikh recite, is your call. Or want to stay until Maghrib?
No, I don't know, inshallah, we'll see. Tomorrow, inshallah, at Dhuhr, inshallah. Allahu Akbar.
Okay, that's it for the questions, inshallah. We have now the next session, but I think you will do for a 5-minute break. So before the 5-minute break, one announcement that the Sheikh will be on IBN tonight between 9 to 10 for 1 hour, inshallah. So if you all want to see the Sheikh again,